day long. The flower pot man. The flower pot man. The flower pot man.
The Walkie-Talkies. One beautiful summer's day, Pry was out for a morning fly. "Good morning, Weed! Lovely day!" she called as she flew over the bottom of the garden. "Good morning, Pry. Yes, it is," replied Weed. Pry was flying over the cellar door when she heard the faint sound of something being thrown into the cellar. "Hello? I think I'll go investigate that," said Pry. She flew down onto the cellar door and looked down into the cellar. "Sounds like something new has been put into the cellar," said Pry. "I'm sure Bill and Ben will be interested to hear about this. I'll go and look for them." With that, Pry flew off to find Bill and Ben. Pry found Bill and Ben sitting on the roof looking at the view. "Hello, Bill and Ben," she said as she landed next to them. "Flubber Pry," replied Bill and Ben. "I've just heard something new being put into the cellar if you want to go and have a look," said Pry. "Woohoo! Flubber thank you, Pry," smiled Bill and Ben. They were always excited when something new got put into the cellar, so they went there straight away. Bill and Ben slid down the cellar slide, and when they got to the bottom, they started looking for the new thing. Bill was the first to find it. "Aha! Flubber found it!" he said. He had found two funny-looking things, and he had no idea what they were. "Flubber, what are these?" said Bill as he picked them up and looked at them. Then he ran over to Ben, who was on the high shelf. "Flubber these, Ben?" asked Bill. "Hmm?" said Ben as he turned around. Then he looked down at the things Bill was holding. "Flubber, what are those, Bill?" "Flubber don't know," said Bill. Neither Bill nor Ben had a clue what the things were, but they knew someone clever who would. "Slobberlob!" Bill and Ben were soon in Slowcoach's house showing him the things they found in the cellar. "Oh, yes, you're asking the right person," he said. "I know exactly what those things are. They're called Walkie-Talkies." "Flubber Walkie-Talkies?" said Bill and Ben. "Yes, you can talk to each other through them even when you're very far away from each other," explained Slowcoach. "Ben, you go somewhere far away from my house so that we can test the walkie-talkies." "Flubber okay, Slubberlub," said Ben as he left holding one of the walkie-talkies. Ben skidded to a stop by the clothesline pole at the end of the garden and climbed into the peg bag. He pulled himself up to the top of the pole, and when he got there, he jumped into the basket and pulled himself to the roof. When Ben got to the gutter, he jumped in and pressed the on button and held the talk button on his walkie-talkie. Ben scratched his head as he didn't really know what he was doing. Flubber. Then he talked into his walkie-talkie. "Flubber Bill!" There was no answer, so Ben tried again. "Flubber hear me, Bill!" In Slowcoach's house, Bill had just turned his walkie-talkie on when he suddenly heard Ben screaming over it. "Flubber Bill! Wah!" cried Bill. He dropped his walkie-talkie in surprise, and it bounced off Slowcoach's head. "Poof! Ow!" said Slowcoach. "Oops! Flubber die, Slobberlob," said Bill. He picked up his walkie-talkie, held the talk button, and spoke. "Flubber hear me, Ben?" said Bill. "Flubber, yes I can," said Ben. "Woohoo!" cheered Bill. "Flubber double work!" cheered Ben. Now Bill and Ben could talk to each other even when they were far away from each other. "Flubber dang, Slobberlob," they said. Bill left Slowcoach's house to meet Ben. "Hooligans," said Slowcoach. Bill was walking past the shed when he heard the man who works in the garden coming. "Oh, Flob!" gasped Bill. He looked towards the shed and ran inside to hide. Bill climbed onto the workbench and looked around for a hiding place. Then he saw a wooden box with a cloth next to it. So he ran to the box, dived into it, and covered himself with the cloth. In his hiding place, Bill decided to call Ben on the walkie-talkie to let him know that the man was about.
"Flubber Ben! Flubber, hear me?"
he said. Ben knew that the man was about and was lying in the gutter when he heard Bill calling on his walkie-talkie.
"Flubber Ben! Flubber, hear me?"
"Flubber hear you, Bill," answered Ben.
"Flubber good! Flubber man is here,"
said Bill. "Flubber no! Flubber lying in the gutter," said Ben.
"Flubber danceable,"
said Bill. Bill and Ben chatted to each other on their walkie-talkies for a few minutes, when eventually they heard the man going back to the house.
"Whew! Flubber man gone now. Flubber meet you at Thistle's corner,"
said Bill. "Phew! Flubber okay," said Ben. Bill finished the call, climbed out of the box, ran to the edge of the workbench, and jumped off. Ben stood up, jumped down into the drain pipe, and slid down it. Flubber whee! Bill arrived at Thistle's corner just as Ben slid out of the drain pipe and somersaulted over to the kennel. "Way! Whoop! Ow! Flubber-dob!" they said.
"Flubber look?"
asked Bill. "Flub!" answered Ben, nodding his head. Now that the man had gone back to the house, Bill and Ben could find out what he'd been doing. They looked around for a bit. Then they looked up and saw something. "Ooh! Flubber-lob!" said Bill and Ben. The man had been hanging up his washing to dry. The biggest thing on the line was a white sheet.
"Flubber-dobber washing,"
said Bill. Just then, a breeze started to blow. "Ooh! Flubber-dobber breeze!" said Ben. Bill looked at the sheet blowing in the breeze, and that gave him an idea.
"Aha! Flubber-dobber idea,"
he chuckled. "Flubber funny, Bill?" asked Ben. Bill whispered his idea to Ben, which made him giggle. "Flubber funny, Bill," said Ben.
"Flubber no, Ben,"
said Bill. He decided that he and Ben could play a trick on Thistle using their walkie-talkies. Bill and Ben looked at Thistle, who was sleeping, and winked to each other. Bill crept into the kennel with his walkie-talkie, picking up a pebble as he went inside. Bill put his walkie-talkie on the table, put the pebble on the talk button, and crept out of the kennel again. He had planned that he and Ben could pretend to be a ghost using the walkie-talkies. The flowerpot men would go and hide somewhere with one walkie-talkie and leave the other one in the kennel. Then they would put on ghostly voices over the walkie-talkie they had, scaring Thistle. Bill came out of the kennel pointing inside and giving a thumb up to Ben. They shook hands and ran off to the vegetable garden to hide. When Bill and Ben got to the vegetable garden, they sat down in front of the compost heap.
"Flubber ready?"
asked Bill. "Flubber ready," answered Ben, nodding his head.
"Flubber good,"
said Bill. He cleared his throat, held the talk button on the walkie-talkie, and made ghostly noises into it.
"Ooh."
Thistle was still asleep until she heard Bill's ghostly noises.
"Ooh."
"What? I thought I heard something," she said.
"Ooh."
wailed Bill. "Hey? What's that noise?" said Thistle. She looked around, but she couldn't see anyone. She looked up and saw the sheet blowing in the breeze.
"Ooh."
wailed Bill. "Oh no!" gulped Thistle. It's a Flubber ghost!" wailed Ben. "A ghost!" shrieked Thistle. "Ah!"
"Flubber big,"
wailed Bill. "A big
stammered Thistle.
Flubber white as snow, wailed Ben.
As white as snow, said Thistle.
She was scared to bits, but Bill and Ben were having the time of their lives. Bill took his thumb off the talk button on the walkie-talkie, and he and Ben burst out laughing. Then the Flowerpot men thought it was time to reveal themselves to Thistle, so they ran off to her corner. Thistle had her face hidden when Bill and Ben appeared in front of her.
Flubber,
they said. What? You two? What is it? Said Thistle as she uncovered her face. Bill ran into the kennel and came back holding the walkie-talkie he left in there. Ben took out the other one from behind his back. Flubber walkie-talkies! laughed Bill and Ben as they ran off. Thistle realised she had been tricked and got cross.
Why, those troublesome Flowerpot men, she said.
Oh! Bill and Ben were still laughing as they arrived at the bottom of the garden and climbed into their flower pots. Hello, you two, said Weed. Then she noticed the walkie-talkies. Ooh, what have you got there? Flubber walkie-talkies, said Bill and Ben. Walkie-talkies, eh? said Weed. Now, what have you been doing with them that's so funny? As Bill and Ben told her about their adventure, they agreed that you can have lots of fun with walkie-talkies, including spooking your friends by pretending to be ghosts, or just invisible people.
Bill